Well, wonderful. Good morning, Scott. Turning it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate that. I want to welcome everybody to the meeting this morning. The committee chairs invited Richard Golinowski to join us. And as we all are aware, Richard is the manager out at Dulles Airport. And we wanted to hear his perspective at the committee level with respect to what's going on with the issue of cargo out at the airport. We've known for a long time that MWA was interested in growing their cargo capabilities and freight out of the airport. We also wanted to hear and learn a little bit more about Loudoun County's kind of proposed Route 50 bypass, if you will, that would be proposed through airport property, and then to hear about some of the employment challenges that the airport is experiencing out there. We just completed a Dulles Airport job fair, which went very well. And Joe, again, thank you for allowing us to use the Fairfax Christian School. The feedback that I have received from a survey done, everybody really appreciated the facility and how things were laid out. But we did this because of the concern that a few of us were aware about the need for employees out at the airport, several job openings out there. So with that, Richard, I don't think we really need a big introduction of you. We're all, very familiar with you. We appreciate you taking your time this morning to be with us, to give us some of your thoughts. When Richard is done, I will, or Jack will open it up for questions and just have a dialogue with him on these particular issues. So with that, Richard, I'll turn the time over to you, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. And thank you to the committee for allowing me to come this morning. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. You see the opening shot here?
Yes.
Very good.
Perfect.
Thank you. So just a couple things I wanted to go over this morning. Talk about the workforce, like Scott mentioned, where we are with air cargo, and talk about what it means to be a multimodal transportation hub, and loop in the whole piece about Loudoun County and what they want to do on our property. So first, as far as the workforce, as far as our progress goes, getting back to sort of 2019 levels, this was a snapshot at the end of June, early July, and you can see the yellow bar that our employment numbers are getting pretty close to where we are in 2019. And in fact, July, we were above 86%, closing in on 90%. And we think it's going to be the same for August and September. Now, it's interesting, if you look at the dark blue bars, you see it takes the dip in September. That's a normal dip that we have every year. So we're not concerned about that. That has nothing to do with a change in flight pattern or a change in passenger patterns. That's just a normal change, the fluctuation in our passenger activity. So all in all, we're heading in the right direction. We are actually above our initial 2022 projections, and we think 2023 and beyond, we're really going to be hitting the 2019 and beyond numbers. So that gives you sort of a feel with how business is going. And we continue to see this. We had a meeting the other day with some of our international carriers, and they do not see a downturn at all in their activity compared to what we projected. So talk about the workforce a little bit. Just to give you an overview, Dulles Airport in its entirety has approximately 15,000 badged employees and another 4,500 non-badged employees that don't work inside the airport proper. So those are people like that work at the Marriott or work at the Sunoco or work at some of our outbuildings that don't have any need to get onto the airfield or into secure areas. So overall, we have close to 20,000 employees that are directly tied to the airport. And they are represented, or they represent, about 550 unique companies here on our property. So that's a huge chunk of the workforce in the area. A lot of people depend on Dulles, as you well know, and we are doing everything we can to encourage people to come and work at Dulles Airport. But we are having problems, just like everybody is. We are at about the 80% filled level for all of these companies. Some companies are worse than others. Some of our ground handlers, for instance, are really suffering trying to fill slots. And it's gotten to the point where they are warning that their carriers, the carriers that they support, that they may not be able to support flights coming and going. The carriers are in turn turning to us, asking us for help. We in turn turned to Committee for Dulles, and you guys did an extraordinary job of helping us with that job fair. And like Scott said, it was very well attended. And I think the company's got a lot of good support and a lot of good leads from that job fair. So thank you very much. So the good news is, since July of 2021, we've added about 1,900 employees to our roles across the airport. So people do see the advantage of coming and working at the airport. We are getting people in, just not at the level that we need to yet. With the change in the economy, we may see a change in the labor force coming to the airport. We hope we do. But again, it's still a struggle, just like it is for everybody. And again, just some shots from the job fair and what a great success it was. So again, thank you very much, Joe, for giving us your space. Thank you to Committee for Dulles and everybody who participated in that. So turning to air cargo, air cargo has been sort of a strange beast over the years, and Mark Treadaway knows very well, and Keith Merlin knows very well about how we've tried to develop our air cargo business at Dulles over the years. And every time we think we're heading in the right direction or heading to an expansion opportunity, things happen, the economy changes, the business model change, and we haven't really been able to get across the finish line to truly expand the cargo business here at Dulles. COVID didn't help, obviously. There was a downturn in activity across the globe. At some point, air cargo started picking up again across the globe, but not necessarily here at Dulles Airport. And I will show you some graphs that show you that our air cargo has been relatively flat for the past 5 years. Supply chain disruptions also had impact on cargo into and out of this area. But there are a couple good things, right? IATA says air cargo outlook is strong in the short and long term. The U.S., however, the U.S. domestic air cargo market is sort of matured. And what does that mean to us? That means that there may not be as much interest in expanding our cargo operation at Dulles Airport. However, China is saying that there's going to be 6% growth per year, year over year for them, and they see that in the international market. Another interesting point here is that air cargo represents about 1% of all the cargo that moves, but that 1% equals 35% of the value of the cargo that's moving. So it's high-end cargo that is moving by air freight. So we're sort of weighing all these factors, trying to figure out, okay, how do we fit in and what can we do to make an improvement here? So the other piece is our airframe manufacturers. Boeing says, hey, cargo is looking strong over the next 20 years, 4% per year growth. The global world freighter fleet will grow by 60%. Airbus has the same thing, 3% annual growth in general cargo and almost 5% annual growth for express freight. So on the one side, we're saying, well, the American market is sort of matured. But on the other side, we're seeing that the airframe folks are saying, hey, we're building planes and people want our planes to move the cargo. So we're trying to match all those, or mix and match all those data points that are coming into us and trying to figure out what our next move is. So I talked to you about our cargo and how it's sort of been flat for the past 5 years. And you can see here from 2017 through 2022, and I only have through June numbers here. But you can see it hasn't really changed. Dulles, this has been the Dulles profile for the past 5 or 6 years. So we're trying to figure out, again, how do we change the dynamic? How do we change the story moving forward for air cargo? And here's another piece of data that's interesting to me as well. If you look at all the cargo in the United States by metric tons, you can see Memphis obviously has FedEx. You can see that Dulles is down towards the bottom of the pile here. Again, I think it's, if you count these airports, we're about 21. So we're trying to figure out, how do we change that yellow block into a taller blue block on this graph? Again, we have a lot of people looking at opportunities. We have a lot of people coming to us saying there's interest, but to date, we haven't had any signed contracts from anybody coming in. So we're trying to position ourselves to be an opportunity for cargo growth in the region. So as you may know, we have an existing area where we have cargo operations today, and that's shown in the red. And then one of the primary areas we're looking at for cargo expansion is at the southern end of the airport, nestle between 1 right and 1230. This is an area, and right in the middle, you can see that little white dot in the middle. That's where a bus maintenance, or train maintenance facility is. But that whole area represents about 313 acres of prime development land ready for cargo operations. So just to give you a little background more on where we are today, this is that red block that I showed you in the previous slide, and you can see how our current cargo operation is set up. And we have cargo buildings 1 through 4. These are old buildings representing about 26 acres of space down there. Cargo 5 and 6, a little bit newer, another 42 acres. And then we have the FBO right on the top there. That's approximately 16 acres, but that's dedicated to FBO expansion for jet aviation. So the only area up in this area, in the existing cargo area that we have for development, is that area in yellow, which is approximately 16 acres. So there's not a lot we can do as far as expansion goes in the existing area. So what does that all represent? Those cargo buildings, it's about $12 million in rental revenue for the authority. Most of it is belly cargo, except for FedEx and UPS. But we are looking at options for expanding this cargo operation. Another interesting piece of this is FedEx has talked to us in the past, and they were not interested necessarily in having us develop property. They were interested at one point in FedEx developing their own facility at the south end. And that has come and gone through several iterations with FedEx. Again, we're trying to figure out what the best move is right now for cargo. So again, if you remember that screen before, that yellow area I showed, this is the south development area. And again, this represents about 313 acres of developable space that can be used for a cargo operation. And we've had people come in, Hillwood, you might be familiar with Hillwood Development. Sky Harbor has come in. We've had a couple others that have come in and looked at this, trying to figure out how to make this a viable expansion opportunity for our cargo operation. So what's the problem down there? Keith well knows there's not a lot of infrastructure in this area. So there'd be a lot of money sunk into infrastructure to develop these 313 acres to make it a very useful area for cargo. But we continue to plot this area out as a prime location for development. And we continue to include this in our master plan as an area for development. I think at some point the dam is going to break and we're going to be able to really expand down here. But right now, today, if you ask me if we have a solid lead on cargo expansion at Dulles Airport, I don't have that sitting on my desk ready to review. I think a lot of people think that there's a demand. And I think at some level there is a demand. One of the things that works against this region is that we are not a manufacturing region. And manufacturers are the ones who really need a lot of cargo moving in and out. We are a consumer, strictly a consumer. So how do cargo operations work the best is when you have materials coming in and end products going out. Here, we could bring materials in for distribution to the consumer, but we would have nothing going out the other way. And that's one of the tricky pieces of the dynamic for cargo that is really hard to get for people to get their arms around. Again, you're going to have users, like FedEx and UPS that are delivering packages all day, but true heavy cargo is not coming into this area because we don't have the manufacturing base. We're a government town, right? And I don't think that's a secret for anybody. We're a government town, and the type of cargo that supports government is not the traditional manufacturing base that's needed to support cargo. However, there are a lot of good things that might sort of push us to expanding our cargo operation. And that gets into the concept of being a multimodal transportation hub. You know that in this month, August 2022, we just put out a report and we have 77 nonstop destinations domestically coming out of Dulles Airport. That's fantastic. Internationally, we have 59 nonstop destinations, and we're adding more. It seems like every day I'm going to an event every day out here for a new carrier or a new destination. So there is this airport infrastructure in the sense of flight patterns and destination maps that is working towards an expansion of cargo. And again, I think we will get there one day, but today we're not there. The other thing we have going for us is our toll road. And the toll road has been pretty popular. We see our user rates going up quite a bit, and we're almost at the 2019 levels on the Dulles toll road as well. A couple of things we're making changes to in 2023. Number one, the toll rates are going up. I know nobody's happy about it, about increased toll rates, but that's what's used to pay the bills. And by the way, those toll rates, as I'm sure you all know, those toll rates have been mapped out for decades on how we're going to increase toll rates over the life of the toll road. And we're also going to an all electronic tolling system. So we're actually going to get rid of the toll booths starting in 2023. And it's going to be a much more streamlined operation or user environment in the future. The next thing that we're extremely happy about is the Silver Line opening later this year. Right now, unofficially, we're looking at the beginning of November, maybe the end of October, when Metro actually opens up for a revenue service. The Metro line. It's good for everybody. It's good for our passengers. It's good for our employees. A lot of our employees have talked about using Metro, so we're really excited about that, offering them that option. And I think that addresses the labor issue as well, being able to bring in more employees to the airport. But again, our passengers use it. I think at National, about 20% of the, at peak time, about 20% of the passengers through National were using the Metro line at National Airport. So we think we're going to have similar use rates here. I think there will be a little bit of an adjustment for our passengers. It's a new means of getting into the airport, but I think over time you'll see more and more passengers using the Metro train. So we're really excited about that. And then as far as Loudoun County goes, and this was the last piece that that Scott had mentioned, Loudoun County is very frustrated with the time it takes to go from Route 50 coming west to get to the 28 interchange and then ultimately go up to Route 7 or go down to 66. So they have come to us and proposed using our land to put in a connector road or collector road, which would go from 50 out to, would pop into our airport property and then connect to the Hazy Bridge essentially, and then pop back out onto 28. So in theory, this sounds really good. And we are looking at options and possibilities to do this with the Loudoun County planning folks. So people say, well, why wouldn't we do that? Obviously, there's a concern about giving up airport property for roads. Is that something we really want to do? But on the other side, we think, well, but this is good for the area, right? In theory, it could get people to the front door of the airport quicker because they wouldn't have to go through that 50-28 interchange area that tends to slow people down. I think the other day I was on 606 coming around the airport, and I think it said to get to 28, it was something like 30 minutes or 25 minutes. And I couldn't believe how long it was going to take to get from 606 to the 28 interchange. It was peak time, lights were not working right or something. Anyway, the purpose of this collector road is to try and shortcut that stretch of 50 to 28 to try and get people back up to 28 heading north much quicker. Now, we do have a couple issues. We have a major road coming into the airport, Stonecroft Boulevard, and we have told Loudoun County that in that area, we would need a grade separated interchange to address our traffic as well as the traffic on this collector road. We also have the Hazy Connector Road or the Hall Road for Hazy. We were talking about putting a grade separated interchange there as well. That adds a lot of cost to the project. And those two grade separated interchanges might dissuade Loudoun County from pursuing this any further. But we do continue to talk to them, and we do continue to look at alternatives to these grade separated interchanges. But what does this all mean for our business at the airport? This would actually be very good, I think, for the cargo operation or the cargo opportunity that we see in the South End, because this gives us quicker access to the highway system, to the interstate highway system. So in that sense, that we support some type of avoidance of that 50-28 interchange if we could. But I don't know if the authority is ready to commit dollars to do this at this point yet. So we're trying to work a deal with Loudoun County to try and make this affordable and meaningful for both parties. But again, we're just sort of in the discussion phase right now with them. This has been one of those topics that has come and gone as well over time. It becomes a hot item and then it goes away, then it becomes a hot item again. And it's back on the table, and Loudoun County is really interested in this. The interesting part, unfortunately, is Fairfax doesn't seem to be too interested in this. It's not high on their list of projects in the future. So this is really Loudoun County pushing this, and we're working with Loudoun County to try and make this palatable for all parties. So a couple things for us in 22 as we close out the year. We are looking at beginning construction of our Tier 2 Concourse East Terminal, shown there on the bottom right. That's essentially how it's going to look. That's our concept drawing of the building. And you can see on the drawing on top, you can see how it fits into the airfield. The CD Concourse is just above that on the drawing on top. And ultimately, this is the beginning of the removal of the CD Concourse, as this new Tier 2 Concourse East ultimately will extend all the way across the ramp area like we see today. This new concourse will be a 14 narrow body gate addition. We are in discussions with United Airlines right now to figure out whether it's really going to be truly 14 narrow body gates or 7 wide body gates. We're looking at club options. We're looking at concessions options. We're looking at connectivity options for how we get people to and from. Right now, this is built on top of the C train station, so it'll be very easy as long as the train is functioning correctly and we don't have any downtime with the train. But we do have the issue about international versus domestic and which flights United is going to be using on these gates. So we're trying to work out all these pieces with all the partners, with CBP and with TSA and with United, as well as our other carriers, trying to figure out how we're going to get all this done. We did receive about $49.6 million from the federal government to help us with this construction. We much appreciate that. And we do believe that this is going to be completed in 2026 if everything goes well and there are no major supply chain issues and no major construction issues. The good news is this is essentially a greenfield space. So it's not like we have to worry about demolishing buildings. It's not like we have to worry about working in active passenger areas like we did at National when we were working on that project. So it's going to be very isolated during construction, and I think that'll make the construction go much smoother. Also this year, we have our Dulles Day plane pull and runway race, and thank you to both the Committee for Dulles and the task force for helping us with this. The Dulles Day and plane pull will be held on Saturday, September 17th, and this is going to be the first full Dulles Day plane pull event we've had, I think, in 4 or 5 years now. So we're really excited about this and looking forward to it. And then 2 weeks later, we have the runway race, with everybody involved. We had this last year. This is going to be a full race. Hopefully we're going to have 2,500 people. At least that's what Carol tells me. She's going to be number 2499 on that race. And we'll get this done and it'll be exciting for everybody. And of course, this year, as you all know, I think we've been pushing out, November 17th is our 60th anniversary. This is a very exciting time for Dulles Airport. And I want to thank everybody who's worked at Dulles Airport to support Dulles Airport. Definitely Keith Merlin. He's been a big part of this over the years, as well as the Committee for Dulles. We are only as good as the people that we work with and the partners we have. And you guys are great partners working with Dulles and pushing along the development of Dulles Airport. With that, I know, I think I ran a few extra minutes, but I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, very good, Jack. You want to take it? You want me to just go with it?
You just run with it. Thank you very much.
All right. Everyone, just if you have a question, just go ahead and pipe in, and because it's kind of hard for me to play manager here without being able to see everybody. So if you have a question for Richard, just pipe in and state your name.
Yeah, Richard. Keith, question on the the South Road, that you're talking with Loudon, that's the first time I've seen the alignment that high. There's been, as you said, discussed many times before. The one thing that I noticed in that the grade separated interchanges are going to be super expensive. The one that really just jumps right out at me is a taxiway to Hazy.
Yes.
That's, with tail heights and everything else, that's got to be as expensive as the road.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And this is a sticking point, Keith, with us and Loudoun County. And Chris Brown's been involved in these discussions to some degree about what we really need and what we have to maintain. This one, that particular one, if any of the three there could be eliminated, that's probably the one that would make most sense because it's not really used that much.
Right.
But anyway, in our initial discussions, this is what we told Loudoun County, that this is an area that we think a grade separated interchange would be required.
Yeah, definitely. And the second one, the second question I had, we have been, as long as I've been associated with them and cargo has always been a real issue, and especially with a constrained, environment we have up north. And if you take 1, 2, 3, 4 out of there that are so outdated and very few of them are even used for cargo anymore, you still don't have you've got less room.
Yeah.
Because I look at BWI and I know Eli's on here from AFCO, they've got a huge operation at BWI that's supporting Amazon. And I would think that, as you said, we're a federal town. We don't produce anything except paper. And that somehow, is it your thought and more current thinking on this, is it the site itself that's limiting that consumer focused cargo operation, or is it the fact that we've run out of infrastructure to support it at any reasonable cost in the north, and we'd have to have an anchor tenant really down in the south to bring that stuff in? Or is it a combination of those?
I think it's a combination of both. And again, when we were talking with FedEx, they don't want to invest any more than they have to expand their operation. So what's interesting to me about cargo here is that we haven't had a big push from the FedExes and the UPSs or even the Amazon Air to expand what we have today. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the dilemma we're wrestling with. We have this space, there's this feeling out there in the netherworld that, yeah, we need to expand cargo, but nobody's coming to us and saying, expand, 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 expand.
Yeah.
So, we think there's an opportunity there. We continue to set this area aside. We continue to look at expanding infrastructure sort of naturally over the course of time to support that cargo expansion. But it's amazing to me, and you and Mark probably know better. It's amazing to me that these guys haven't come to us and said, "Yep, we're ready to send down, $1 billion or $500 million or whatever it might be. We're going to build a new building down at the south end to support our cargo demand." They're just not coming to us right now.
Yeah, the last time I had any conversation with them, of course, was like centuries ago, was they wanted it in a time frame that we couldn't even fathom.
Right.
When they finally make the decision to go, they want it like within 12 months, and we can't get the infrastructure there in 12 months.
No.
Hey, Richard, I have a question. It's Mark.
Yeah.
For years, there's always been that South Terminal discussion. Is that now off the table? And when growth reaches a certain point?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's off the table, but it's not part of our master plan discussions right now.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah.
I would just say on the cargo front, I beat my head against the wall on this issue for years. We've gotten close. The thing that Dulles doesn't have is freighters, and that's kind of what separates the small, sort of the not real cargo airports from the full-fledged ones. And that's just been a really, really tough one to crack.
Yeah.
It seems that a number of the carriers will bring their, like KLM will bring in flowers, and Ethiopian will bring in flowers, and they're niche markets that are there, but there's investment that has to be made, like cold storage facilities and things like that. So, you know, I mean, I guess the place that I ended up is the right opportunity just has not presented itself for Dulles yet.
That's exactly right.
You know, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. You know, it's just it's really been a frustration point. I'm very excited to see this southern, you know, all the land that, you know, has been designated for possible cargo development. I think that's brilliant. So way to go on that.
Yeah, and you brought up cold storage. Just a quick note, we had a meeting with one of the cold storage providers about 2 weeks ago. And at the end of the discussion, it sort of came full circle that the guy even said, yeah, it doesn't make any sense for me to build anything on the airport. I need to build something off the airport and just get it to the airport to ship out.
Oh, okay.
Just this is Eli with AFCO. Just building on kind of Keith and Mark's questions about the cargo development. I think you've raised a lot of good points and covered a lot of those. In terms of your interactions or looking for federal funds, we've just seen a lot of increased activity, I guess, at the FAA level, at the federal level for contribution towards projects. You mentioned the $50 million for the Terminal C satellite or Tier 2. And just curious, when you're in those conversations trying to secure federal funds, where does, you know, enabling projects for the South Cargo area, where does that rank on your prioritization for securing funds or allocating funds towards the development of that infrastructure that you mentioned that needs to go into there? That feels like there's a lot of roads, a lot of ramp that needs to be built for that type of development. I was just curious, in your conversations and trying to secure those federal funds, does that rank high on the list, or kind of where it is, or are there more pressing passenger focused needs where you're prioritizing?
Yeah, it's on the list, but quite frankly, it's not high on the list. And again, it gets to the point of we don't have anybody beating down our doors to develop that South area yet. So right now with federal funding, we're focusing on the passenger experience and trying to replace the CD concourse. And that's where we are asking for federal support.
Scott here. I just want to follow up on Keith Merlin's question about the interchange over the access road to Hazy or the apron. Why would you even consider bridging the road over top, but not look at going under?
Well, yeah, whether it goes up or you know, above or below, we don't know yet. We're just saying at this point, we ask for a grade separated interchange. How that happens, I don't know.
Seems it would just be a whole lot easier just to drill and dynamite the quarry a little bit. I mean, the rock out there a little bit, and you'll have your sure foundation. Just go underneath with that. So, any other questions from folks?
Richard, I wanted to ask about the noise contours and how that's progressing. I know that it was met with some resistance by some of the folks at Loudoun County, and whether you're seeing positive progress or.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I actually had a slide about that in here and I said, no, I'm not going to get into that today. But since you asked, you know, noise contours have, it's amazing the life that noise contours takes on with people. And how emotional people get about this. We continue to push that we have 2019 noise contour maps that are valid and are real and are based on data. And we continue to meet with the Loudoun County team as well as the Fairfax County team to encourage them to accept our 2019 noise contours into their planning documents. I think Loudoun County, you know, knock on wood, I think they are on the verge of doing that. We have a couple more meetings with them. Fairfax County is a tougher nut to crack. And I think that's going to be a challenge to get them to accept our 2019 noise contours based on the most recent conversations we've had with them. But again, we continue to meet with them. We continue to explain what the noise contours really mean. But it is a challenge moving forward.
If I may jump in for benefit of Michael Cooper, who's with us here in the CFD office. I sent a letter yesterday under the signature of our president and first vice president, myself, to the Planning Commission, supporting staff's recommendation on the Planning Commission's item on the airport noise. So
fantastic. Thank you.
I know a few of them, so I'll give them a call too and on that. But I think at the end of the day, having experienced being, on the board, well, actually, I've been a planning commissioner and then on the board. The PC is just an advisory body, and oftentimes they sometimes would go their direction, but ultimately the Board of Supervisors, looking back, pretty well sticks with what they initiate, with the exception of a few minor details. So I'm kind of confident we'll be okay at the end of the day, but you always have to keep, whispering in the ear to get it to the finish line.
Absolutely.
I got a question. Is there any revised interest about Esquin and horse trade plus cargo?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Equine.
Equine industry and quarantining of horses and
Horses and other
shipping.
animals, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another specialty field that takes a lot of capital investment to get that thing going. That's another interesting thing, especially with the Virginia horse business, and my son's involved in it too. The way the Virginia horse business is, I would think people would be breaking down our doors to put an equine facility in here. We haven't gotten it yet. I think they're just as happy driving their horses down south or up to New York and going from there. It's a very interesting field. It's a very niche market, and we just have not had a demand for it yet.
Rich, I'm Rob Whitfield, and I joined the committee for Dulles in 1987. And I remember asking Jim Wilding in the year 2000, this was ahead of the implementation of rail to Dulles. And so I saw the need to update the master plan because of the advent of rail. I haven't launched this publicly, but I've been trying to get Fairfax County to look at the next 40 years. And what I foresee is that I was there when with a group from here when I think it was 2008, United Airlines had come to MWA saying that they needed 100 gates within 5 years or something. And I guess you could say, I don't know what the world ahead in terms of transportation, but it just seems to me that that possibility would still exist. And that therefore having the second main terminal, or it could be just an international terminal, would help segregate the traffic from the present racetrack in front of the main terminal. There are times, I think Sunday afternoons at 4 o'clock is one of them, when the traffic is backing up past the Marriott, past the lake. And frankly, I see that situation getting worse in the decades ahead. And so there's a lot that I would like to input to the, in fact, I got hired by MWA, British Airports Authority in 1968 to work on London's third airport, but I took a job in the United States instead. So I'm very interested to participate, and I'm hoping that I will get somebody. I knew Bill Levergone for years and asked him some questions, but I'd rather come and be part of the team that's working on this. And yeah. I hope the Committee for Dulles puts together a team of people to assist MWA.
Yeah, so we have another public forum coming up here in the next month or so, and I'm happy to get you that date. I think it was announced on the website. I'll have to verify that. But Greg Wallert is our planning manager, so I'll put him in touch with you so you can submit any information or any questions or comments you have to him. But we are going to have another public session on the master planning process here in the near future.
So I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the meeting. My recollection was that the existing terminal was projected to be good up to 40 million passengers. I haven't even seen, is this new concourse feeding passengers through the main terminal? Or, I mean, when did you see that 40 million threshold? ultimate capacity? When do you see that coming?
So we see the 40 million mark around the 2045 timeframe, and then continue to grow from there. The new concourse, Tier 2 Concourse East, will be fed through the existing main terminal, and it'll go through the train system, and the train, as I mentioned before, the train will pop right up into that new concourse. So we are still using the main terminal for bringing people into the airport, as well as baggage claim going out of the airport.
So do you have any strategy for dealing with what I call peak period demand, traffic demand?
Yeah, and our planning folks are busy trying to address these issues. And it's complicated the way we're laid out, but they are looking at things, even changing the way our ticket counters are set up in the main terminal, trying to smooth out that operation as you come into the terminal. We are looking at roadway improvements as well, coming around Sarandon Circle and around the Marriott Lake as you come into the airport, trying to add lanes or trying to redirect traffic on the roads. So we are looking at both the road infrastructure as well as the main terminal, the way the main terminal flows, as well as getting people out to their gate, their ultimate destination, their gates.
All right, are there any other questions from other folks? All right, seeing none. Richard, thank you very much for joining us. And folks, we did record this. I will, in the next day or two, post this on YouTube, as I've done with other meetings that we have had. We certainly appreciate everybody's attendance today. And with that, Jack, you as chair today, do you have any final thoughts? Or
No, just repeating, thank you, Richard, and go Hokies.
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute.
all right, folks, thank you very much. Have a great
you.
day.
Take care.